will show me clapping my hands.
Okay. Clever.
Welcome to another episode of the Beach Treehouse Podcast. I'm Charles Higgins, and I'm here with Stephen Thompson, an old friend who worked with me at Slide Ranch, and is so far the youngest guest on the Beach Treehouse Podcast.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
I think you're the first millennial that has come into the studio.
No pressure.
It's a whole nother perspective. You're representing a whole generation that's very influential and important right now.
I think I can do that pretty accurately.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, welcome. So glad to have you, and would love to learn a little bit more about you and what life has been like for you from when you were a child, and a little bit about your family and that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. So where should I start?
Well, you could start in the orange orchards of Orange County.
Yeah. Okay. Right. So yeah, I was born in LA, raised on an orange orchard in Orange County that's been in my family for 100 years or so. I grew up on the ranch that my mother was born and raised on, and my grandmother was born and raised on, and it was adjacent to what is now like an emptied out lake bed, which is now kind of like a park with trails in it, but it used to be a reservoir for irrigating all of the orange groves in North Orange County. So there's a dam that was there that was built by like my great grandfather and his brothers. They would like pull in dirt and walk the sheep across it at night to tamp it down.
Real sheep,
yeah. And built it up slowly. So yeah, like family was very involved in irrigation, in farming, in Orange County, for a very long time. And so when I was a kid, we still had the orange orchard. They still have it, still in the family. Not as many orange trees anymore, but some of my first memories are running around the orange orchard, just picking up oranges off the ground and squeezing the juice into my mouth and just being a big sticky mess. Or riding on the tractor, when they were disking the grove. So they would disc the grove. There was this old kind of Caterpillar tractor that would pull these metal discs through to till the soil, and then they would flood irrigate everything in the summertime, which was amazing as a kid. I would just get really muddy because it was so hot out. They would just flood irrigate it, and then the water would sink back into the ground. So it's like it's this. I grew up in a multi-generational kind of family ranch. It was like scrappy. It wasn't like a fancy situation.
Not like Yellowstone.
No, not at all. It's very small, 5 acres. We only had 5 acres. So now it's surrounded. The property is surrounded by tract houses. Small kind of like quarter-acre lots and half-acre lots and stuff like that. And so we have this kind of like what is now a big piece of land, 5 acres. But at the time when they bought it, it was just like a very small piece of land with orange groves around that are like thousands of acres large. When I was in college, I lived there with my great uncle, who was also born and raised there, and we would drive around, and he would talk about. He was born in 1920, so he saw that area change a lot, and he passed in 2008, and so I would. We would drive around. We would go to Disneyland a lot, actually, because he was a musician in the 40s, a jazz musician, and loved seeing live music. And every day they had live music every day at Disneyland. So we would go to Disneyland. We would go, take him in his wheelchair to New Orleans Square, and we would just like watch music.
Wow.
All the time.
What was his name?
His name was Theo. Yeah, Theo Navarro. Yeah, so it was the Navarro family that, still there. So I don't know.
That's a connection.
Mm-hmm.
I believe your car still has a license plate that says Theo N on it.
Yeah, Theo N. Yeah.
And you went to college in Orange County.
Yeah, in Irvine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you majored in physics, right?
Mm-hmm. Majored in physics, yep, with a concentration in philosophy of physics.
Mm.
But I did a lot of work in astronomy and astrophysics as well. Yeah. I did a summer research project in England that was it was actually 2005, 2006, and it was early. We were calling at the time artificial neural networks, which was like early AI, to do kind of big data kind of classification of kind of stellar objects. It was cool. It was interesting. We would take like a bunch of data about galaxies and use it to train this AI to do something that would take humans like a long time to do. And then you can kind of basically, we were training these computer programs to classify galaxies by morphological types, like visually what kind is it? Is it a spiral galaxy, a bar galaxy, elliptical galaxy? And normally someone would have to look at it and analyze it and then say what they thought it was. But we could do this with, tens of thousands of galaxies, like in a matter of a few minutes, with the AI. And it worked okay, but it was like, it's just, it's come a long way since then, 20 years ago.
Yeah, well, the rate of change is accelerating.
Yeah.
And now your work is kind of similar in a way. You're training machines, programming machines. Tell me about that.
It's, again, I got really into making things, right? So like at Slide, I was, after college, learning physics, I think it was so like in my head, it was so like non-physical, right? Ironic, but it just very non-physical. So like getting back into outdoor education, getting outside, we just like felt so good and so right. And then, you like were one of the first people to like believe in me in like a professional kind of way. Of like, I think that you can do this thing that I didn't even know that I could really do, but gave me like the time and the space to do it. And I was able to like be like, oh, I know I can figure this out. If someone like believes in you, gives you the opportunity, what can you do with it? And I was able to really do it. And so that kind of really started my like journey as like a maker of things, and then that kind of went into a bunch of different places. I became a machinist, worked at the Exploratorium, and then started, at Slide I was building houses, like small houses, and then kind of got into more smaller, kind of more detailed work. Eventually became a machinist, did a lot of different kinds of fabrication, a lot of different kinds of methods, manual methods, digital methods. So I have this like really, interesting background that's like it's not just like one thing, it's like a lot of different types of things, a lot of different perspectives on what it means to make something. And so now I'm in a position where I'm at a company that is making the tools for making things, right? And so we're thinking about how people make things now, how they will make things in the future, and really ultimately it's about like ideas, like what is it going to mean to have an idea and then be able to realize it, without needing all of the skill sets in between, which is, it's taking years. It's taking many years and a lot of like sweat and trial and error to figure out all of this stuff, which is in a way like that's like the joy of it. This joy of like making things is understanding how the world works, right? And just like not like understanding of it, but like furthering your understanding of how the world works, right? Getting like deeper and deeper, and there's, when we think of how we interface with the world, I think that there's always these, there's tools, right? We have so many tools around us for doing all different kinds of things that we don't totally know how like all of them work, right? But we know enough, right? There's an interface, and ultimately I think it's really about like an idea. How do you take an idea, right? Like this podcast, right? And like put it into the world. And there's a bunch of things in between that like you don't necessarily know how they work, but then the tools make it like possible to bring everything together. So really what you're able to do, I think, is take an idea, which is the important part, and manifest it, you know. And I think that especially in making things, there are these barriers, which are huge skill sets, that if you have an idea for like something that you want to make, but you don't know all the steps in between, then you just can't make it. Or you need to find people that know how to, you know. And so I think that maybe what we're headed towards is more access to the processes. And what I hope is that what that means is that what's going to be more important is the actual idea of things. And that like maybe the kinds of barriers that were in kind of getting in the way of really good ideas, maybe they won't be there as much anymore, or more of them will be able to be realized.
There'll be more tools to overcome barriers.
Yeah.
More sophisticated tools.
Yeah.
Tell me about, you were working on a special project that didn't have to do with making things. It had to do with changing the way people think, the way they interact. Remind me about that, what that was.
My personal project.
Yeah. Are you at liberty to talk about it?
Yeah, I can talk about that. That project, which is right now, it's called the Consensus Atlas. That's still evolving. I think this is like it's always a hard thing for me to explain or talk about, but I'm happy to do it. It's this idea that like, I never know where to start. Thinking about the idea of consensus and the idea of like, what does it mean to for us as a society to build a consensus, which is like a shared belief about what is real, you know. And it feels like it's getting harder and harder because, you know, our access to truth or just to good information is harder to get, and there's just so many blocks in the way. There's like, you know, there's a lot of bias. People are very incentivized to like twist information and just put it out into the public just so that they can get the thing that they want to get, you know. And like, it's politics is all mixed up in there, and that's not necessarily about good information anymore. It's really just about like people getting hired again, and they'll make concessions to truth. So it's like this. It's a game. It's like, it feels like a game that we're playing, right? And so like, what does it mean to like, I don't know, how do you get closer to like what's real, right? And how do you do that at scale? So I don't know, but my project is creating a forum for kind of so what is essentially like an archive, like a living archive of the world in time and space. So like kind of images, text can live on a map in time and space that you can search. And that's really kind of it. You know, there's like, you can make an album and you can share the album publicly or privately. There's a bunch of different levers you can push and pull. But ultimately the idea is that you can, over time, with enough people, kind of like build a sense of the world, right? That is non-performative. So it's like, I noticed that it's an app that I have now that I use, that I don't use it that often. It doesn't draw my attention, and it's not meant to like keep me engaged. But like, I'll use it every now and then when I'm like curious about something. I'll like go to it and be like, I wonder, you know, what's happening in San Francisco, you know, or what's happened, you know, since like, and I'll go, and right now I have this really wonderful friend, Paul, who does he volunteers at the airport, and he's been putting these kind of like little secret places around the airport that he knows about that are really wonderful. And so I'm like, I'll go and I'll see, there's a spot at the airport where you can like practice getting on a plane. It's for like kids with anxiety and stuff. And it's got a few seats and these little windows with little videos of like the outside, and they can practice like getting in the plane and putting, and like I didn't know that any of this kind of stuff existed. So it's like a glimpse into the world. It's also, there's like a bunch of calculation behind the scenes, which is about like how you form consensus at scale with like semantic descriptions of things, which is like another, these two things kind of come together.
Interesting. I was with a friend the other day and we were talking about something similar to this, not in terms of how disconnected different societies and races and peoples and nations are. And he said, well, one thing that we all have in common is appreciation of awe, a sense of awe. And I thought about it and realized that is true, that humans perceive awe, whether it's the awe of a sunset or nature or a baby being born, or there's certain things that just sort of take your breath away. Mm-hmm. And it seems to me this concept of a consensus atlas might include that it's a question.
Mm-hmm.
How do you experience awe? How do you perceive awe?
Yeah.